Get into it. What are your financial goals?
Big goal, I'm trying to buy a house.
Yeah, right.
What?
You'll never own a home.
But I work 40 hours a week.
That's awesome. Nobody cares.
I don't live paycheck to paycheck.
No, you're not what we call paycheck to paycheck. You're what we call vacation to pet surgery.
Oh.
Have you ever had to replace all 4 tires on your car at once?
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Why are tires so expensive?
That's not good.
Speaking of cars, seems like you paid your car off recently.
Thank you. I did pay off my car. That's a big boy
The
move.
very same month your student loans picked back up.
Forgot about those.
Everybody did.
But I just got a raise.
So did all the prices.
Yeah, what's going on with eggs?
Oof, eggs are having a year. That's why I stopped eating.
When did you stop eating?
Yesterday. What are your long-term life goals?
I'm honestly just trying to be able to afford a kid.
Well, technically, that's a bright future because he's seeing stars. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Radowski here of wearechange.org, and we are going to be live for the next 2 hours with a house filled with a guest that's missing and is going to be here in just a little bit. A special guest that, of course, is late because of the crazy Miami traffic, but we decided to start off anyway because there's so many different crazy things to talk about in our modern day world that we're just going to have to start this show without him, as of course there's a lot of turmoil within the cities. There's a lot of news coming from the last and final Republican presidential debate, as well as some really interesting news surrounding foreign policy with warnings from the Biden administration that I think should be taken very seriously. We're going to be talking about that plus a lot more all here on this independent media broadcast that, of course, you could participate just by signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. And by doing so, you not only get 3 master classes, a forum, a members-only store, contest, giveaways, tickets in real life, but also the ability to call in to the show as we are going to be taking phone calls 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Rumble when the show moves over at the 1 hour mark and the conversations get a lot more spicier than, of course, the conversations that we are allowed to have here. Another way that you guys could participate in the conversation is by going to mysuperchat.com. That is our website. Every and all super chats will be read, whether they are YouTube super chats, Rumble rants, or individual chats given on mysuperchat.com. As of course, this gives only a 3% service charge YouTube, 30% service charge. So of course, your text will be appearing on screen when you super chat on mysuperchat.com. And we appreciate all the amazing support we had for this podcast journey. As of course, this is the fourth episode this week. We did 3 shows already with some really spectacular guests. We had Mirwan in here. We had Josie, the redheaded libertarian. We had Vinny from Valuetainment last night. I'm still, my throat is still freaking sore. My voice is almost lost from that conversation yesterday. It was a really awesome one, as of course we promised to deliver some awesome guests. We really got a good one, but until that guest arrives and sits there, took us in the seat, we have Clint Russell here of the Liberty Lockdown Podcast. Clint, how are you?
I'm good, Luke. I'm good. Just thrilled to see Vivek and his reign of neocon terror continue. Thank you, Vivek, for doing that with Nikki last night. At Liberty Lockpod on X, if you want to follow me there. Liberty Lockdown's the show. Also, do Tower Gang. You can follow me. All my programs are on Rumble. Some of them are on YouTube periodically, but consistently on Rumble. And I believe Luke said 3:30 Eastern. I'm sure he meant Pacific. So 6:30, LukeUnfiltered.com Eastern. If you guys want to call in, we'll be ready to talk to you. Steph on the buttons.
I thought I said 6:30 Eastern.
You said 3:30, but it's okay.
It's been a long week. We've been working our butts off here. Stephanie, You're going to have to do the majority of the heavy lifting here. We expect you to talk throughout the majority of the show. I hope you're ready.
Yeah,
super ready. Let's go.
Let's start it off right now. What else?
Keep going, Steph.
We have so much to talk about. It was so nice. We saw him here, and now we're going to see more of what he's doing up to. What is he up to? What is he up to, Mr. Vivek?
Just brilliant cutting analysis. I love it.
We're gonna be coming to you a lot, Stephanie, so just be prepared and ready. As of course, let's just jump into it. As of course, the Daily Mail is reporting that Vivek is toast and even Chris Christie won't eat it. Now, that's a great pun, but the beginning sentence here, toast, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me here? This is just an absolute ridiculous take, as the corporate media has been releasing a lot of hogwash and just absolute garbage surrounding this particular debate, as it's pretty clear Vivek was on freaking fire. He wasn't holding anything back. He was going after all of the other presidential candidates that essentially were speaking in unison. He was one of the few voices that was willing to address spicy issues, willing to, of course, go after individuals, call them out on their hypocrisies. And again, Vivek, not a perfect guy. His policies aren't always the best, sure, but when it comes to standing out of the pack, I think he definitely did that last night. What was your guys' response to this? As, of course, I'm going to turn up the AC in here because it's getting hot.
Sure. I really thought that, we had him in studio a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was a month ago now, I'm not sure. But his exasperation with the political ordeal that he's participating in was so evident, and I could just see that it's really wearing on him. So for me, it was gratifying because that was the read I got from him, that he really doesn't like these people, particularly Nikki Haley, but just broadly the neoconservative movement. And I personally believe it's sincere. I think that he is of my generation. He saw the war on terror. He saw the lies and the deception. He's now kind of come to the light on the J6 stuff. I think that the guy is sincere in his hatred of the establishment and having to interact with the media day in and day out, and their deception and their obfuscation and their lies. I think that he's just had it, and he's letting it loose. And this is exactly what I wanted to see. This is what I was screaming at my TV when I was watching DeSantis debate Newsom. I was like, just let loose. Do what everybody sitting at home wants to see done to these establishment warhawks, and you will have a lifetime of support. And I think that he's pursuing that path.
I think we made a mistake last night not simulcasting and responding to the debates, because I thought it was just going to be another boring, horrible debate. But let's be honest here, if Vivek wasn't running, that debate would have not been fun to watch. But it was fun to watch, especially afterwards. I was like, wait, hold on. I'm seeing all these clips being shared around on social media with him blasting the establishment. I think we should have watched it in real time, reacted in real time. Even though we had an amazing conversation with Vinny from Valuetainment, the conversation was awesome. It was really, really incredible. And still, I think we made a mistake. We should have been watching that debate.
It's tough because you never know when these debates are going to be fireworks or are going to be snooze fest. But really, the truth is, it's only when Vivek speaks that there's anything compelling happening. And that's what I find so funny about the media coverage in the aftermath, is it's always portraying him as getting flattened somehow, or he's so annoying and irritating. I'm like, he's the only guy up there that I even have any semblance of respect for.
That's kind of what makes it really interesting, is the fact that they're actually like trying to shush him and trying to like move on to the next one. That's what makes it more interesting to like, okay, this is probably the guy that we need to see what he's going to do. Let's let him put his money where his mouth is. Like, he's saying all these things. It sounds good. It'd be really interesting to see him do what he says.
Well, I don't necessarily think he's even going to get that opportunity, which is why I don't understand the liberty test or the purity test that I see from the liberty, Republicans and the libertarian community. Is like this guy is almost certainly not going to be the president. So all that his value provides is in destroying the establishment.
What is that going to look like? Like, how can you say he's almost not certain? I'm just curious. Like, where?
Well, because he's only polling at 9%. Trump is polling at 75%. So it's like the odds are that it's going to be Trump, unless he's removed from the ballot somehow.
Yeah, but if anything happens to Trump, Trump's going to endorse Vivek, because Vivek's the only person who said that he would bail him out and actually get him out of jail when he's facing 750 years in there. So I do believe there is a path, and at least there's someone in the race that is willing to say things that are controversial, that are different. And I always made this point, and I always said this very kind of loudly, and that was specifically that, these presidential debates, a lot of people are talking about who's going to win, No. The wins come on the battlefield. The wins come when it comes to conversations that are started. And he started some really interesting conversations that the corporate media has been trying to stop for a very long time. Some controversial issues that we can't even get to hear on this particular platform. But when he comes out and talks about the military-industrial complex, when he talks about the neocons, when he talks about how the system is all there to protect itself, as Chris Christie's literally wagging his nubs at him and his fat is just swinging off of that finger, saying, "Hey, Nikki's a great leader. She's a good woman," simping for her on national television. It shows you that a lot of the kind of establishment neoconservative right wingers are on the same kind of side there, and he's just saying, you know what? Let's just break this conversation wide open. Let's just get into some spicy issues. Let's push the Overton window, which CNN is literally freaking out about. We also got a super chat now that I wanted to read from Red Viking, and he says, "I just freaking love this show. The Button Girl." Thank you, Red Viking, for that super chat. It means a lot. There's a reason we created thebestpoliticalshow.com. We also have a lot of really interesting URLs that we are going to be introducing next week. Again, I got a lot of surprises for people next week. It's going to be really awesome as we are launching a full frontal information campaign against a certain individual. I don't want to lay out my plans too much here. It's just going to be pretty funny and pretty hilarious. As also we are going to be doing a lot of special shows from the Beanie Man. As, of course, we have another Rumble rant from Bald-Headed Dim Fool saying, "This by far is the best podcast so far. Way better than the other beanie guy," or whatever his name is. Where's Bonobo? Yeah, Bonobo should be there. Why isn't Bonobo there? Clint showed up 40 minutes late, by the way. We would have... Yeah, put Bonobo in. Put Bonobo. Let's get Bonobo in there. You're absolutely right. And Bald-Headed Dim Fool, that's a very interesting username. Thank you for, of course, going on mysuperchat.com and giving us these super chats. I might disagree with you. I kind of like watching, the Beanie Man myself. There's Bonobo, the very loving orangutan monkey.
Sloth.
No, he's a
sloth.
monkey.
Look at his hands.
He's a monkey, according to my own. He's Bonobo the monkey.
Show us his hands.
Thank you, Bald-Headed Dimful, for reminding us that. But as you guys know, I will be co-hosting the Beanie Man's show with him next week, and he works really hard, and he provides some really awesome stuff to this community that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for his hard work and dedication.
Facts.
So no hate towards him, and he does work incredibly hard and deserves everything he has. A lot of people are like, "I don't want we here," and I'm like, you don't understand how hard that man works, and how much dedication, how much time and energy he put into everything. I was there. I saw it firsthand, and I'm like, holy cow, this guy's like a freaking robot Russian machine, just like going at it with very little breaks, very little downtime, just straight hustling in the middle of nowhere with nothing else around you other than some like weird deers and a bunch of chicken heads everywhere. The country chicken heads, not the city chicken heads. But anyway, let's talk about what's going on with Vivek, because I thought the response here by CNN was absolutely extremely telling and kind of shows you everything you want to know from this entire presidential debate. As of course, we're going to only play a small clip of this, but Van Jones, a man that, by the way, I confronted a number of times. As soon as I started confronting him, the man literally ducked his tail between his legs, started running around looking for security in order to try to arrest me for asking him questions. You could see those videos now on my YouTube channel. And Van Jones, very interesting conversations with him. I'll just leave it at that. But this was his response to Vivek Ramaswamy, which a lot of the people in the establishment really do not like. Gee, I wonder why.
And the smug, condescending way that he just spews this poison out is very, very dangerous because
poison. Okay, wait, I want to talk about this. Poison? What poison is he talking about? As he's saying, hey, we got to stop all these wars. Hey, we got to stop all these foreign conflicts. Hey, we got to stop selling this country out. Where's the poison in that? Well, did you see any poison from Vivek?
It's poison to him. He's like, oh my gosh, this is poisoning me. I can't listen to Vivek because he's saying too much truth.
Well, I think the thing that blows my mind is like Van Jones is allegedly a progressive, right? They're supposed to be anti-war. Vivek is far and away the most non-interventionist GOP candidate aside from Trump. And yet Trump and Vivek are the two guys that they find to be these like fascistic threats. It just demonstrates how nonsensical and transparent their non-interventionist positions are. They're not.
Yeah, so we have another super chat by Lane Bold 63 saying Vivek is pronounced like the word cake. Yes, we might have accidentally called him the wrong name, but I don't think he minds. I was calling him what I call him regularly all the time since I've known him, and he wasn't the type of person to be like, hey, this is high. He's not that high strung around us. As of course, another portion of the debate that happened was him saying, "How dare he call Nikki Haley by her real name?" And then there was another exchange about that. But let's go back to Van Jones and talk about more of his nonsensical dribble that he just released on the world, as he, of course, was having a meltdown because of Vivek cake.
He won't stop Trump, but he's going to outlive Trump by about 50 years. And you're watching the rise of an American demagogue that is a very, very despicable person. Yeah. And I was shaking listening to him talk, because a lot of people don't know that is one step away.
One step away from the Germans in the 1940s is what he says. That, of course, YouTube would hurt us for even saying. He could say it on his YouTube channel. They're totally cool with that. YouTube could get away with showing really awful, horrific stuff on their YouTube channel. Independent media covering the same stuff, even covering the corporate media, they get hit, which is just highlighting a lot of hypocrisy. But it's fair to say that he's definitely having a kind of an emotional Ben Shapiro reaction to a lot of this, rather than an actual logical one trying to defeat this idea, because he's just going and saying, hey, that one brown guy that was on stage, yeah, he's very close to the Germans in the 1940s, which is an absolute absurd take to make here, as of course it has no basis in reality, and he's resorting to the leftist tactic of everybody is that mustached guy from 1940s, which is ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous, and I love that Vivek is just showing these people Vivek, excuse me, is showing these people for the frauds that they are. This is really a similar phenomenon to what we saw from Trump in 2015 in the lead up to that election. Less so in 2020 when they had just completely lost their minds. But this is like the rise of a threat to the regime, and I think for from my vantage point, the reason that I have so much more faith in Vivek, aside from the fact that I've spoken to him personally for about 3 hours now, and I feel like I have a better sense as to who he is as a person, is just that he's clearly the next iteration of Trump in terms of the populist movement that he has kind of born in this country, and I think that they realize that he's going to be a problem for them for many decades moving forward, and I think they're right. I think that he's not going away anytime soon.
People in the comment section are saying, "Are you mentioning Charlie Chaplin?" No, I'm not mentioning Charlie Chaplin. I'm mentioning another guy that YouTube hates to have you even talk about, as of course historians even got hit talking about actual legitimate history here. But I thought this was kind of very telling during the debates, especially when we have Nikki Haley coming out and saying we need to ban TikTok because people there are starting to hate a particular group and race of individuals. As of course, these people love censorship. They love centralized power. They all agree that, hey, no matter what happens, the state knows what's right for you, and we'll take care of you. Vivek's kind of stepping outside of that purview and saying, no, maybe the state intervening isn't the best idea here.
And it's Van Jones that's accusing Vivek of being the fascist because he's attacking Nikki Haley, which is the one that's dictating that private businesses need to be shut down unless they acquiesce to the demands of the government, which is classic definitional fascism. Like, does anybody see what's happening here? Like, Van Jones is accusing Vivek of being the fascist because he's attacking the fascist. It's so obvious what's going on here. He is a threat to the establishment. They don't like that. Anybody that's a threat to the establishment is the next mustache man, danger for civilization.
A very telling moment out of this debate was when Vivek asked Nikki Haley to name 3 areas that they were fighting over in Ukraine where she wants our soldiers to go over and fight. As of course, that's what the Biden administration is literally warning. I don't know if we should play some of this clip. Should we play some of this clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I want to say one thing about the tie to Ukraine, if I may. So foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there, the donors right there that are playing her like the puppet masters.
Hold on.
Look at Chris Christie, white knighting. Oh no, stop it, you're hurting her. No, don't do it, please. The words are so mean and awful. Please. And it was just ridiculous to see. Of course, Nikki Haley first said, I'm not going to, she said something to the tone of saying, I'm not going to, give that, question any kind of legitimacy. And then she went on and named Donetsk and Luhansk, and then said Crimea. But that's not where the fighting is happening with the front lines there. It is Kherson and Zaporizhia as well, that the Russians don't actually have the capitals of, but they're actually trying to negotiate and now trying to have a deal where, of course, they will get a bigger portion of that region in order to secure their kind of land bridge to Crimea. But again, very telling moment, especially I think the biggest moment was specifically with Nikki Haley essentially being called out as having the same plans with this particular conflict as the Biden administration, which is very telling.
Well, and it's true. That's the most important part, is that it's true. And he's getting booed from the crowd. The audience at home, at least from what I've seen on Twitter, is going buck wild, like they love it. To me, the most telling part about that entire little clip there is that as he's getting booed, Vivek points to the crowd and he says, there's her donors right there. And I think that's the truth. I think that they are planting people in the crowd to boo, to try and dictate to the home audience, just like a live studio audience might, as to, when they throw up the applause sign, they're like, oh, Nikki talked.
Boo. Wait.
Vivek talked.
Boo.
Boo. And I think he's right. And I think that's like, just for people at home, I share your skepticism about all politicians. Believe me, I do. The reason that I tend to think that he's legit or he's the real deal is that if he has the donor class going up and backing one of his opponents very heavily, and they're trying to kind of, like, the media is also portraying him as losing these debates that he's clearly winning. This is the same treatment that I saw for Ron Paul. It's the same treatment that I saw for Donald Trump. I think that portrays him to be, if not fully on our side, at least an enemy of the establishment. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll take what I can get. I want an enemy of the establishment.
We have another super chat here from D, who says, Clint eats wood. Thank you for that super chat, D.
Who told you?
Clint, yeah, I mean, he can't help himself. I might have to deal with some of the things that sticks on to the glue, but I'll leave that for another segment and another portion. But what I think, what I kind of see happening here is you see a lot of the big kind of corporations, you see a lot of the banksters, the globalist class, the corporate media trying to kind of prompt up, hey guys, we have Nikki Haley here. You guys should support her. She's going to be great for you, as she represents, of course, the best interest for them. And they're doing everything they can to be like, hey, Nikki, you got to go for her. You got to vote for her. She's great. She's going to be awesome. And then Vivek literally comes in there and just like pulls the chair and knocks her completely down. And people aren't buying the kind of larger plans that Nikki has, because he's calling them out in real time as they're unfolding, and therefore they cannot get their psyop through, which is, of course, trying to replace Nikki Haley with Donald Trump as the front runner for this presidential election. And they're doing as much as they can. They're running 24/7 media psyops in such a very desperate way that it's being called out immediately and laughed at. None of this is working, but let's be honest here. A couple years ago, it would have worked very well. Now, it absolutely is not.
Yeah, well, and largely because X allows us to actually have these conversations openly, thankfully. And just another little trick for people at home that are trying to evaluate which of these politicians are on the people's side. Anytime he anytime you see a politician that is attacking one of their competitors in a fashion that demonstrates the corruption of the broader system, they don't like that. Trump, when he was talking about Hillary being a crook, that's a no-go. You don't do that. You don't talk about any of her, shady business dealings or any of that stuff. He did that. Vivek has very much popularized the concept that Nikki Haley, had a cup of coffee at the UN. Then she comes out and she starts making millions of dollars working or at the behest of the military-industrial complex. Vivek is right, and that is not something that you're supposed to point out if you are within the establishment, because there's controlled opposition. When you see Chris Christie and Nikki Haley up there, they're buddy. They might have 2% disagreement, but it's all surface level. When you start talking about the corrupt nature of the political class in its entirety, then you are truly an outsider. And Vivek is playing with fire, doing exactly that.
Steph, did you want to say something? You look like you're trying to prepare to respond to
good,
anything.
but it just to follow up on what Clint is saying, it's like a contingency plan. It's like we're gonna put Nikki here, we're gonna put some other person that's also like friends with Nikki. Like they're both in agreement.
Yeah.
So even if it's subconscious, like whether it's you, whether it's me, it's still the same plan.
Well,
going.
just to prove out my case, if Chris Christie were to get into office, which he won't, Nikki Haley would probably be
Exactly.
Secretary
They're
of
same
Defense,
team.
and vice versa. They are playing on the same team, and almost everybody on the stage all along has been. And I think that Trump and Vivek are the two guys that are actually, even if they're not fully on my team, they are certainly not on their team, and I like that a lot.
Honestly, I don't think it really takes a lot to figure that out. Like at least for me, it's like I don't even need to really watch. I can just hear a few things here and there, and then realize, okay, the establishment is really happy about this Nikki. Like they really love this Nikki girl. I'm like, I don't like her.
Well, I the only reason I'm so hesitant is one, because I've been lied to by every politician my entire life. But two, I have a pretty significant audience now, and I don't want to mislead them. I don't want to tell them, oh no, this guy's the real deal. That's why I'm always very clear. I can't know his heart. All I can say is I've talked to him at length. He's willing to be challenged on every single thing. Nothing's taboo. Nothing's off the table. He's an open book. That's extraordinarily rare for a politician. It takes a level of intelligence that I've never seen really in any politician. So it makes me lean towards, particularly with the way the media is reacting to him, to pick, particularly with the way the Chris Christies and the Nikki Haleys and the DeSantis of the world are reacting to him. That's what leads me down the path of going, This dude's an actual outsider.
Well, if you're telling the truth, you don't need to remember your talking points and your lines, right?
Right.
We have another commentator here in the comment section saying Nikki Haley is Hillary Bush. Yes, I think that's a perfect representation of who she is, especially with just the atrocious power grabs that she's trying to sell the American people as some kind of good idea. Those ideas rejected in real time, backhanded, slapped right back at her. And people are saying, hey, you know what? I like some of this freedom here. So our guest, Stephen, is here. Clint, take it away.
Stephen, where are you at, Stephen? All right. So just broad take on it. I think that that Vivek clearly won once again. It's a total repeat of the last debate cycle where everybody sitting at home goes, wow, Vivek absolutely trounced these people. You wake up the next day, you go read the New York Post or any other rag out there, and they can come away concluding, oh no, Vivek got flatlined. Nikki shines, Nikki soars. Like they'll always frame it as if she's just on this.
She's just a shining star.
She's just a flamethrower up there. When the reality is, she had a Gary Johnson moment that was 100 times worse, because Gary Johnson, when he was hit with the "What is Aleppo" moment, Gary wasn't advocating for war in Syria, whereas Nikki can't list any of the provinces of Ukraine while she is actively advocating for World War III to be fought in their defense.
Well, just a few. It's just the wrong ones.
Well, yeah, but she got them minutes later. I wouldn't be surprised if she had IFB to get that information, or if they had cards that they held up the names in the audience, because she was clueless when he was actually grilling her, when she had an opportunity. Because like when you do a gotcha like that, that you have a very narrow window of opportunity for that to work. If she just immediately fires back, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk, then Vivek looks
Redemption,
then Vivek looks like the clown. She didn't know.
He took a risk. I felt like he did a little risk doing that, but
Massive
maybe he
risk.
really knew.
I mean, if he would have got it wrong, he would have totally been a huge major loss for him
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
political campaign, because he would have looked like a dummy if he would have said, "Oh crap, she actually does know all of them."
Because he was accusing her. He was accusing her and Joe Biden, saying these people are doing these things, they're starting these wars, or they're proponents of these wars, and they don't even know where they're sending our people,
Well,
American people.
Exactly. And there's like 15 or 16 options of names. So it wasn't impossible that she would have known 3, but she didn't know 1.
I was wondering, are they allowed to have cell phones up there on the podium?
No, but they could have notes, and then Vivek had a really cool note that he had on his podium that essentially read Nikki war criminal, or was it
Nikki-
neocon? I forgot what
Nikki
it was.
equals corrupt is what it
Okay,
says.
yes.
Nikki equals
that's
Hillary.
That's pretty simple talking points there. As of course other people are like, hey, what's this and that and that. But yeah, that was pretty funny, and he's definitely playing into the meme game, which I think is really awesome. Our guest is in the restroom. He's going to come out, and Bonobo the bear is going to be moved, and then of course we will introduce him and have a very lengthy conversation about seed oils, masa chips, and all this other incredible stuff. Well, Steven, there you are. So if you can, just go around here, and then we're going to have you sit right there.
Right next to Clint.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he doesn't bite.
Sometimes. He sniffs sometimes. But Steven, thank you so much for joining us. You're also known online as the Tan Man. We really appreciate you coming on this show. You're also behind Masa Chips, which I'll just be completely frank and honest. I saw a lot of people talk about these chips, and they're like, these are chips with no seed oils. And I'm like, holy freaking cow, finally, because I'm at the supermarket, I'm at Whole Foods all the time, and I'm like, I look at all the ingredients, I'm like, crap. I heard about your company. I actually tried it out when I was in LA at Arawan, and I'm like, these are good freaking chips. And I saw some influencers talk about your company. I'm like, I want to work with these guys. These guys are doing a good service, a good product that I actually want, that I actually use, that I actually enjoy. So we reached out to you. You're in Miami. You're like, hey, I'll just come down. We never met before. This is the first time I'm seeing you face to face. You're like, yeah, I'll just come in, jump on the podcast. So thank you so much for coming here. Who are you for the people who don't know you?
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here. Perfect timing too. I literally got to Miami on Wednesday and I'm leaving tomorrow. And
Yes.
it just so happened that we could make this work.
I hope you're liking the traffic here.
It took me an hour and a half to go 9 miles.
Yes.
Oh
welcome to Miami. Welcome to Art Basel, one of the busiest, craziest times in the world here.
I used to live in Fort Lauderdale. During COVID, I became somewhat of a political refugee from the Northeast, and I lived in Fort Lauderdale for about 2 years. So I got somewhat accustomed to it up there, but like Miami you can't even compare.
Totally different ball
Absolute
game.
disaster,
Totally
absolute
different ball game
disaster.
here, but
Yeah.
it's still beautiful. I think it's still one of the best places in the world. I think a lot of us are also refugees from 2020. We moved around a lot of different places, but you're also the CEO of Natural Health Beauty. You got a PhD in tanning without sunscreen. I'm reading your byline here. For the people who don't know you, how would you introduce yourself? What do you do?
Sure. I am the founder of Ancient Crunch. Our first product is Masa Chips, but our goal is to basically be the Frito-Lay of real food.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. No, that's incredible. And
There's a market void there for sure.
no, absolutely. I literally, like, Whole Foods now used to have a lot of good products. Now, every time I go by, I'm like, oh, crap, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah,
And
Whole
it-
Foods has really gone downhill
Yeah.
in recent times.
Absolutely. Me and Steph literally created a crap list. We have a crap list for members of LukeUnfiltered.com that you could download or get on your phone that specifically tells you all the ingredients you got to avoid nowadays and all the new names for all the new products and all the other stuff that they have there. But I wanted to talk about a lot of the breaking news stuff. We're getting into the news here. We're going to go over to Rumble in about 30 minutes, and there we could get into some deep kind of down the rabbit hole stuff and talk about your company and talk about seed oils and talk about the larger kind of health alternative movement, because YouTube really doesn't like you talking about health. But this is why we wanted to have you here to talk about your product, to talk about more specifically also just the larger health war that is going on there. We were just talking about the presidential debates. I don't know if you were able to catch any. I don't know if you have a horse in the race. I don't know if you have a candidate that you like or endorse specifically yourself.
Sure. I kind of stay out of politics, and if we want to get into this, we can. Like, my view is that health and biology happens first. And so any political debate or whatever, like, oh, we should have this form of government, or we should have this party in power. If you have good, healthy, strong people, it doesn't really matter how they constitute themselves politically. That society is going to be a good one. And time and again throughout history, we've seen societies built on strong, healthy, good people. They are good societies, whether or not they have this or that political leader or this sort of ideology. So that's my personal focus, and I try to stay out of
I think
the
that's
news in general.
That's an interesting point, because I think it's true too. If you have a sick population that ultimately needs government assistance to survive, well, they're gonna vote for a larger government, and it's going to, all of the consequences that come therein are going to naturally follow. So I do think that taking care of yourself first and foremost will probably affect the political establishment too.
Or also, if you're sick, you can't really reason well. So
Right.
it's like, it's kind of coming from that too. You want some people that can actually think critically and make good, sound decision making through being healthy and putting you and your body first.
Right, you can't reason well, you can't provide for yourself. And if you can't provide for yourself, it doesn't matter what the government will or will not get for you. If the actual citizenry is not productive and doing good things, no government's going to fix that problem.
But they certainly can make it worse, though.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
There's a recent video going around of a man just taking an entire Frito bag aisle in his whole huge like claw-like hand and just like shoving it into a shopping cart. And I'm like, someone made the point here. This is the healthcare that everyone wants to be free, that you're going to be paying for at the end run. So I want to get into, again, health. We got to kind of stay off just for a little bit because, again, YouTube really doesn't like that. But let's talk about a little bit into just what's going on in the kind of business world. We have a clip here by a local news station that on Fox 11 in California just reported a very interesting circumstance when it comes to a person who voted for Biden, voted for Gavin Newsom, and then I kind of wanted to talk about what you see in this kind of business world yourself. So we're just going to play this clip here.
And caught on camera at a local construction company in LA's Glassell Park. Several thieves are involved, and tonight that owner tells us he's frustrated.
This whole strip has been broken into. Our neighbors have been broken into 4 times. These guys just got broken into 2 months ago. What are we supposed to do? We're a small construction company.
Ryan Bagley, the latest victim on this Glassell Park street, to get burglarized by several thieves, so many it's hard to count. As you watch them file into and out of Bagley's business, Delta Construction and Electric.
They smashed into our gate over there, smashed their gate into here. 15 dudes come pouring in.
Delta security cameras capturing the destructive mayhem about 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. The getaway car, this blue Kia Soul, Bagley says was stolen from LAPD's impound yard.
The cops just knew that it was from the LAPD impound because of the chalk mark on the window.
That Kia Soul taking out a gate so the hooded suspects could make entry.
Hi. You are currently being recorded.
Inside, they took whatever they could carry, including music equipment. Bagley and his brother, former band members, stored inside. You can hear the alarm and spot a guitar.
Stole 6 of our guitars, a bunch of studio mics and stuff like that. Rustled some stuff out, some construction on our construction side. They stole a bunch of tools.
Thousands of dollars worth of valuables, demolished doors and gates. Bagley says the alarm company woke him at 5:03 a.m. when the break-in was still underway, and he managed to get there even before cops. But the suspects were gone.
I came in ready to rustle them out of there and just be like, I wanted to at least take down a few of them.
His business now boarded up, and Bagley is fed up with the break-ins and elected officials.
I voted for Karen Bass, I voted for Biden, I voted for Gavin Newsom. I'm sick of it. It's like at some point you have to give me a reason to vote for you again. Or just do our jobs, make a living, help our employees make a good living, and move on. But it's really freaking difficult to survive.
Yeah, you don't say so, as of course that man voted for what I would say are the policies that are impacting him the most. Clint is a refugee from California. I'm a refugee from New York City. I think Steph's the only one here who was born and raised in Miami and actually stayed in Miami. She's a unicorn, very rare person because everyone here is from New York like me. But this is the cost of doing business now. I saw the taxes, I saw the rules, I saw the regulations, I saw the writing on the walls being like, hey, if you're in these kind of cities, there's no way to survive. There's no way to make money, especially with all the Bidenomics, especially with all the Build Back Better policies that are absolutely screwing the American people. So I was just going to kind of ask you here as a business owner, how do you navigate this kind of unpredictable landscape where the cost of business is very expensive, but also very tumultuous, like you saw with that man who voted for a lot of the policies that he's being affected by?
Right. Yeah. Where we sit is a bit different because we don't require an urban presence, right? Our business manufacturing, all the marketing, all the digital stuff happens on laptops wherever our employees live. So that's a big one, which in one sense is kind of sad because it means New York City used to be a center of industry, or Philadelphia, or Baltimore, or cities on the coast in Connecticut used to have manufacturing. They used to have actual businesses, like an industry run in those cities. And that seems pretty much impossible these days, especially with this in LA, crazy, like the urban sprawl over there. You have to get pretty far away to go to a place that's safe. So where we are, our factory is in a pretty rural part of the Northeast. It's not that, traffic. There's not much traffic going through there. It's like pretty small town, very farmy kind of vibes. That's where I grew up, actually, in Western New Jersey. And that we haven't experienced any sort of issues like this, fortunately. But for a lot of people who require their business to be located where the customers are in a city, you have to be there. There's no other option, right? And so they're gonna have to put up with this. And it's up. They're the ones that live in the city. They're the ones that vote for the government regime. They're the ones that are going to have to ultimately be accountable for what happens and what their elected officials do or don't do.
Do you sell your products in retail stores?
Yes. So sort of. Our 90% of our business today is online.
Sure.
And so that's another one.
But if you want to be the free, the Frito-Lays of real food, you're going to have a lot of store presence.
Yes.
I would imagine eventually.
Yes. And as far as from our perspective alone, that all falls on the retailers. And then what happens is the retailers have their theft insurance or whatever. They I forget what they call it. It's like shrinkage. That's what they call it in retail.
Stop loss, shrinkage, yeah.
Has shrinkage been going up from everything that I don't know if this is something that you looked into yourself, but what can you tell us about shrinkage as they call it?
Yeah, so I know this. I'm not super into retail because I make products, but I know enough. And my understanding is that good shrinkage in a store is like 0.5%. And lately it's been pushing 5%, and basically an order of magnitude increase. And that's a big problem because the stores are not going to lose money. They're going to insure against this. And so the insurance companies are going to charge more if the shrinkage increases. And guess who pays the bill there?
The consumer.
The customer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize with a lot of these policies, the price is kind of put down to the person buying products. And when you look at products, the price of them are going up dramatically. Right. Now, it's not just because of, the kind of shrinkage, as the business calls it, but there's also a lot of other factors with international trade, with supply lines that have been cut in 2020. Allegedly, now they're kind of sort of back to normal. But what are you seeing? Because a lot of people are predicting a lot of kind of instability in the markets. There's a lot of talk, especially when it comes to the presidential debates, about just totally weeding off and getting off of China as a major kind of supporter and supplier of almost everything that we rely on. What do you think those kind of policies, and what kind of insight could you provide us for something when it comes to this very specific issue that we hear politicians talk about that aren't really in the business world and don't really understand?
Sure. So I guess we could talk about hidden costs that American consumers pay. Is that a good?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So to talk about unhealthy food and seed oils and soy and all these ingredients in all these foods, the reason why Frito-Lay is cheap is in part because of your tax dollars. And the way this works is that GMO, conventional corn, and soybeans and all of these sort of like pesticide-ridden cash crops are heavily subsidized by the government. This started after World War II. Because the farmers needed to be guaranteed, the farmers needed to make food for the soldiers and for everyone else. And the government said, okay, I know that it's risky. I know that farming, you could have a good season this season, a bad season the next season. So the government decided to subsidize farms so they would continue producing food during the war. And then after the war, the farmers, with their free money, kind of liked that situation. And so the politicians in Illinois and Iowa and all these states, in order to get elected, had to continue these subsidies. And that continues through this day. So if you grow large cash crops, which almost invariably themselves are very poor quality, or they go into very poor quality foods, you get government subsidies. So everyone will look at Lay's and be like, Doritos or Lay's or something. It's so cheap on the shelf. Oh my God. And then Moss chips, for example, are very expensive. But they don't understand that Lay's are cheap because their tax dollars subsidize the ingredients, basically handing Frito-Lay free money. It's not free. They paid for it, but they don't understand this. And that's why those unhealthy foods are so cheap.
Yeah, and it's also creating monocropping and creating a farmland and just farms that are absolutely depleted in a lot of minerals and nutrients that need to grow proper food. And this is why a lot of people are saying, hey, all the fruits and vegetables you're eating, they're lower in nutritional value than they ever were before because of these government subsidies, because the government comes in and says, no, you're just going to grow soy, you're just going to grow corn, and we're going to bankroll all of it, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and so people think, oh, we're getting a good deal because food is so cheap. No, your taxes are high because you're paying for that food. And in particular, what's a problem for health-oriented people who, I would never give $1 to Frito-Lay. right? I'm not buying any of their snacks. It's not something that I eat. It's not something that anyone in my family eats. But yeah, I'm still paying Frito-Lay because I'm paying taxes that then go fund subsidies for big agriculture, which then Frito-Lay benefits from.
Right. Which drives down their input costs, which gives them a competitive advantage over healthy food. And then people go, oh, these food deserts. Oh, why can't we afford healthy food? It's like, well, you're being taxed. And keep in mind, too, he said it began after World War II. Can you think of any other big government programs that began after a larger war that then grew upon themselves and never went away? Can't think of a single one. Never happened before.
No.
I know, it's absolutely crazy. And when you look at the entire food industry, there's just so many just videos after videos of this factory farming and this factory. I mean, it is just absolutely freaking crazy. How do you set yourself different from the other people in the industry? Because right now we're showing everyone how crab sticks are made. And we're showing the huge amounts of just chemicals and substances that are kind of involved here that looks like akin to a meth lab in Breaking Bad. And that's how your food is made. People don't understand. Again, this is
that's
something
mass produced.
Yeah,
that's like on a scale that's I mean, I love crab sticks. Watching this is kind of frightening.
Yeah, especially when you watch.
They put ice in there to make it cold so that the seafood stays good. How do the chips come?
I don't think it's even seafood. It's just like white blocks and blobs.
It's Play-Doh.
It's blobs.
Yeah, it's like literal blobs of freaking food that are just being lobbied in there and shoved in there.
So much of our food has this consistency of plastic now. It's like, as I'm sure some of it is actual plastic, but it just like if you're looking at your food and it all looks like kind of like melted goo.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, you're probably not eating super healthy at that point, I would imagine. And then we go, why are heart attacks so common? It's like, well, you eat glue half of the time.
Why is Chris Christie as plump as he is right now? Why is this man having so much struggles when it comes to his weight? And again, I don't want to pick on the guy.
I do.
Okay, maybe you do, but maybe you do need to pick on him. To be quite honest with you, because again, your body is essentially accumulation of all the choices and decisions that you make for it as an individual.
You are what you eat. And broadly, you are what you consume. So your skin and your bones are made from the food that you eat, but also your brain and your psyche are constituted by the media that you view and all that whole rabbit hole. But I think the thing about food is, natural foods gets thrown around a lot. And so natural foods are good for you. Unnatural foods are bad for you. Well, what sort of defines that distinction? Because then, annoying people are going to be like, well, everything's natural, just like, oh, everything's a chemical, like chemistry class, like ridiculous arguments. But an easy way to define it is that
I eat computer processed chips. What?
Natural foods, a good way to define this, are foods that could be made without the use of modern electronic-based technology, we'll call it. So prior to the Industrial Revolution, can you make your food without any modern technology? Could you imagine your great-great-great-great-grandma in her cupboard in Nebraska or whatever making this thing? And if she can't, then it's not a natural food. And so for masa chips, for example, if I had a knife and a cast iron pot and a cornfield and a cow and a campfire, I can make masa chips. No electricity needed, no fossil fuels needed, no external supply chains, literally from within 1 acre of land and a bonfire.
And
I
a
can
grandma.
make masa chips. Yeah, and a grandma to help, slaughter the cow, cut up the fat, boil the fat to render it into tallow, take the corn, grandma can husk the corn, then we grind it up, we boil it, form it into tortillas, and then chop them and then fry them in my big cast iron skillet over the open fire. I could make masa chips like that and it would be the exact same thing that comes out of this bag. Obviously, I don't do that because they're expensive enough as it is, but I could. And that's the distinction between us and, say, Frito-Lay snacks. You can't make a Lay's potato chip without modern industry because what's the main, you grow potatoes, right? You could slice them, you have a knife, but what do you fry them in? You can't make seed oils, which they're all fried in, without the industrial processes and the equipment, the technology, and the hexane and the solvents and the deodorizing and the bleaching and all that stuff. You can't just go out to the field and make seed oils.
Unless you take your engine lubricant and then take it out of your car and then use that to fire up your food, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah, so that's, I think, the key distinction. I mean, we'll, if we're going to be the Frito-Lay of real food, which we are one day, we're going to need to make things on a massive scale. But the point is, we still could make the exact same thing without that scale.
Right.
And the scale is just there to make it more, inexpensive.
Question for you. I know it's impossible to know to the penny, but
Yeah.
if the subsidies were removed from the sugar and corn and all these other
And soy.
and all these other industries, how much would that diminish the price gap between a Frito-Lay's product and a Massive product?
That's a really good question. I'm not positive on an answer for you, but
I don't know where we're getting a phone call. Sorry, I'm getting a call.
Yeah, no worries.
I apologize for that.
It's all good.
Go ahead.
I would estimate it's about a factor of 2, but again, I'm not positive, and the only data point I have to go off of is it's related to farm subsidies.
It's a celebrity guest.
Who is it?
Someone's calling in.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, related to farm subsidies, this whole idea of crop insurance. So there are farmers who, as long as they check off the boxes, I sprayed this pesticide, I sprayed this fertilizer, I did this on this date, I planted the seeds on this date. If the crops fail, they'll get an insurance payout.
Yeah, they're being told exactly what to do, and that they're being paid for it. And
Yeah.
actually, a lot of these farmers can't even go in the fields because of the poisons that are being sprayed.
Cancer rates are incredibly high among corn farmers.
It's so sad.
Well, the glyphosate lawsuits that are happening right now with Bayer and Monsanto, those are huge as well. And the settlements that are happening there. Again, I want to get into this, but we're going to have to save up a lot of this conversation for Rumble. We're almost there. We're going to transition there in a little bit. We got another super chat here by Unam, who says, why do you never talk about Vivek's shady past and the fraud he and his mom committed before rug pulling the investors he tricked with the fake FDA approval hype? Clint, I watched Dr. Shiva tell you about this, yet you never bring it up here on Timcast. This is not Timcast. This is thebestpoliticalshow.com. And he asks
I can
why.
answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because I've actually looked into it, and while Vivek had obviously, as with all drug development, you have a lot of failures. He had some real successes too, and best I can tell, he had the ability to cash out when the stock was at its highest price. When allegedly he was lying about the research behind that product that ended up failing, and he didn't sell out. So if he didn't sell out at the top, then that tells me personally that it wasn't an overt fraud, and if it were, he'd probably have been prosecuted. So, while I understand your hesitancy to trust this guy, and I encourage you to maintain that skepticism, I think that Dr. Shiva has, he's running for president, and he views him as kind of his Indian, competition in the race. So, just realize that these guys both have political reasons for coming to the conclusions that they do. I've looked into it, and I'm not convinced. So that's the answer.
Also, no one's perfect. You should never raise anyone above yourself. You should be hypercritical of almost everyone in the industry. If they're doing good work, if they have good fruits of their labor, then of course you should promote those larger ideas and incentives, and you should never fall for the cult of personality in any kind of political kind of saga. I don't know how you feel about kind of Vivek here, Stephen. He is from the kind of business world. He's kind of shaking things up. I don't know if you are able to hear what he has to say or his kind of larger business propositions. I don't know if you might be enticed by that in any way or not.
I've seen a few videos that surfaced on Twitter of just him speaking very well, like without notes, without a teleprompter, and just like actually talking well, like a politician, of the olden days. You might have expected that sort of performance from. But I'm not super familiar. We could talk about it if you want.
He sat in this chair about 2 weeks ago for a full hour and just let us grill him on anything you can think of.
Wow.
He did not shrink away from any of it. I understand everyone's hesitancy and skepticism about the guy. Maintain that skepticism, but that takes balls, folks, to sit there and let two radical anarcho-capitalist dudes to just grill you on everything. Like, what's up with the... I can't say any of this
You
stuff.
can't say any of this
I'm
stuff
not
on
gonna say any
YouTube.
of this stuff. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm done. That's it. I'm just saying, it takes courage. How many other politicians are willing? Marianne Williamson, for God's sakes, won't come in here. I've been inviting this lady. She says, I'll talk to anybody except y'all. I was like, yeah, because you know that we're going to ask you real questions. Vivek is like, yeah, Clint, I've already been on your show multiple times. I've done Twitter Spaces with you. You ask me all of the craziest questions. I answer all of them all the time without a single delay at all. And I'm going to go in there and do a live show with you for an hour. There is no one in the political world like that, aside from maybe Dr. Shiva.
Yeah, Marianne Williamson would be cool to talk about a lot of the kind of hardcore political stuff, but also she's into a lot of woo-woo stuff, which would be really fun to get into because she's out there. She's like on top of like Ian level.
I was just
when it comes to crystals.
Her and Ian together would be fireworks.
I think we sent Masa to one of her events in LA. Now that I think about it, I think I have pictures on my phone from that where they were like on stage and she was giving a speech.
Makes sense.
That's
to
really
me.
awesome. Yeah, and just for everyone to know, again, I reached out to you, Stephen. We reached out to your company, and I'm like, hey, I was looking for chips that had no seed oils for months. And this is a true story. I'm not just trying to sell you guys anything here, but I'll be honest. Like, I was like, hey, I want to work with companies that do good stuff. I think you do good stuff. I really like your products. I really like your chips. We reached out to you, and we also set up noseedoilchips.com. We made our own website.
Oh,
I know
that was noseedoilchips.com?
noseedoilchips.com. We just bought that domain.
You should have got it, dude. You were slacking.
I've never seen this.
Yeah, no, your
No,
company.
he did it today.
I did it today.
Nice.
Yeah, no, your company created massachips.com/Luke, and I'm like, I don't want that. I want noseedoilchips.com,
you
and then
redirect it.
you get 10% off
Nice.
of those chips when you, of course, use the promo code Luke. So we just
Nice.
set up noseedoilchips.com because, again, I like companies that do cool stuff outside of the control grid matrix. I know it's difficult to do business, and I want to support businesses that I like, that I want to work with, that mutually we could help each other out. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially if we're able to be transparent, open, and honest with each other, because that's the way that business and enterprise should be run in this country, and not with backroom deals and all this shadiness and all this bull crap. I want to be as transparent as I can to the audience. Yes, we get a cut when you go to noseedoilchips.com, and that's because I want to work with this company. They do good stuff, and I really do enjoy their chips personally myself. And I'm like, hell yeah, finally, no freaking seed oils. I mean, it's been frustrating.
Yes.
Even at Whole Foods, even at all the hippie stores, I keep reading the ingredients, and I'm like, canola oil, sunflower oil, flaxseed. I'm like, I don't want
Poison.
any of this. Get out of here.
Oh, but it's high oleic sunflower.
I know. And I'm like, I don't want any of that in my frickin' body. So I want to work with companies doing good stuff. You're one of those companies, so I appreciate you coming out here last minute and us not even having a real conversation until now on camera with thousands and thousands of people watching us. So I appreciate you coming into the Lions Den. We're going to switch over now from YouTube over to, of course, Rumble. You had something to say really quickly?
No, I was just going to say thank you. Appreciate it.
And let me just also add, it's not just mutually beneficial between these two. It's also for you. You get 10% off. So it's a win-win-win. What's it? noseedoilchips.com?
noseedoilchips.com. We'll
go.
put that in the description and in the comment section. As of course, now we're going to get into the real kind of health conversation that we can't on YouTube. YouTube, again, but there was a huge industry of individuals really doing some revolutionary stuff a couple years ago when it came to helping people with natural kind of remedies. Yes, there's a few kind of snake oil salesmen. Yes, there's a couple bad apples in the industry. Yes, there's a couple people that were wrong. But overall, the kind of holistic medicine space is filled with some really amazing, incredible individuals. And YouTube just obliterated that entire space a couple years ago because they talked about issues that Big Pharma didn't like, that a lot of big industries didn't like. And when they didn't do that, all of them had their channels deleted. They were downranked. They were demoted. They were demonetized. So just to be safe here, we're going to move this conversation over to rumble.com. We are currently right now on the front page. So if you go to rumble.com, all you have to do is click this third link here, and you guys will be able to continue the conversation in an unfiltered, real, honest way, which we greatly appreciate you guys participating in. And then, of course, we still will be able to take Rumble rants and your conversations that are started on, of course, mysuperchats.com. So, again, if you haven't signed up yet on Rumble, you can get the app too. Get the app, click the notification button, sign up. We're very close to 100K subscribers on there. We have a lot more on YouTube. It's going to take a while for us to kind of get everyone on YouTube. We reach 100K. We have a special surprise for Clint when that happens. He might like it. He might not like it. Find out. Like it. Find out once we get to 100K. As of course, we're going to have some really incredible shows ready for you next week as well. We're expanding this operation. It's been super fun. Then the following week, we of course will be with Tucker Carlson on stage at the TPUSA event. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be filming a lot of behind the scenes content. I'm going to be talking to Tucker. I'm going to be talking to a lot of different individuals. There's a lot of really fun things that we have in hand and in store for you, all coming up here on thebestpoliticalshow.com. Before we go off to Rumble, Stephen, where can people find out more information about you and your company?
Sure. You can follow me at ReallyTanMan on Twitter, X, TikTok, and Instagram. And then our website is massachips.com, MASACHIPS.com.
Nice. At Liberty Lock Pod on X and Liberty Lockdown. I'm suspended for another 3 weeks on this fine platform, but still hit the subscription button and you'll catch me with the latest and greatest. Next week, I will be hosting for Luke while he's away. He will still be joining for a portion of it, but we will have on back-to-back-to-back Anomaly, James Lindsay, Dave Smith. Going to be amazing. Don't miss it.
Steph.
You can find me on Instagram at Steph We Are Change.